Affinity Designer for Sewing 102. I'm going to do some basic pattern adjustments today. We're going to be talking about lengthening and shortening a pattern piece, as well as unfolding and mirroring in Affinity Designer. I've pulled up the Ellie and Mac Chapman cardigan, and I have already set up my document. If you don't know how to set up your document so you have larger margins, make sure you check out Affinity Designer for Sewing 101, the basics. We're going to go ahead and continue from here. Once you have your document size as large as you want, remember you can always go back and change it. It's not going to make any difference for your changes. We're going to select the layer that we will be working on today. So I'm just going to go ahead and unselect, and I've chosen to work with the medium size layer today. So you're just going to uncheck everything else. So we have one layer is all that we should have on there. Now, if you look, you can barely see those pattern lines on there. Just means the pattern file itself, the lines were not very thick. It looks like they've almost disappeared. So what you can do is over in the layers panel, highlight that layer, come over to stroke, and I'm just going to put in 4 for a 4-point strokes for all those pattern pieces. And you can see immediately, I can see those lines a lot better. Sometimes when you do that, it's going to change. Some of these lines were dashed lines on the pattern, and now they're solid lines. So if that happens, you can go back and you can select each of those lines individually, and you can change those to be a dotted line if you would like. It's a really quick and easy fix. Just click on those lines that were supposed to be dashed, come over here to the stroke, and you can change that style right there, or you can leave it, and just remember that's totally up to you. So let's go ahead and dive in now. We're going to look at unfolding and mirroring pattern pieces first. And I'm only going to go over, normally when you would do a pattern, you would lengthen or shorten first, just to keep that in mind. As far as this goes, I'm going to show you quickly just how to unfold, because it is one of the fastest things ever. So what you can do, if you want to highlight all the pattern pieces, you can scroll your mouse over it, and we're going to push Control G. That's going to group it all together. It looks like maybe it didn't group part of that together at the bottom, but it should work okay. To quickly unfold, we're going to duplicate. That's Control G. That's the shortcut for duplicate. And you can't see it, but it did duplicate it. If I move this, there's 2 pieces there. If you move it out of the way, just push Control Z. It will pop right back into place here, but I'm going to keep that selected. And we're going to come up to the top of the screen, which says flip horizontally. And it has done it. Next thing you would do is line it up. Now, did you see those green and red lines? Those are going to show that they're lining up horizontally and vertically with other pattern lines. So it's great to look at that. You can also zoom in really close and to see that you can get that close. Now, you may notice that it didn't take that dotted line there. That just means that our dotted line here, see how it's grouped differently? It wasn't grouped with the pattern. So you can always go back. Let's go ahead and undo here a few times, and I'll show you how to troubleshoot something like that. So if you take here, look, that's all grouped together. So a few things, you could delete all the words. You don't need those. You can get rid of those. You can just I would have to ungroup all this, so Control Shift G, and you see it's ungrouped things, and you can get rid of whatever you don't need. If you don't need the instructions, just delete them. And you could delete each of those. You could delete the size. You can delete the instructions anywhere you need. But now I have access to this line, and I can push Shift, so it highlights the rest of the pattern. And so I have both of those lines. I can now group it, Control G. It's grouped all those pieces now. If I grab it and move it, it should have all, oh, it still has my duplicated piece in there. So let's take out that duplicated piece here, and let's see if it's not there. That's okay, it happens sometimes. It wasn't grouped in there. So let's try that again. I'm going to Shift and click both pattern pieces, Control G, group. Now they should all be grouped together. Again, I can move it. Oh, yes, it is. Control Z, move it back into the right place. Now I'm ready to go ahead and I'm going to unfold that. To unfold, we're going to duplicate first. The shortcut for that is Control J. It duplicates it. Then up at the top toolbars, you're going to see flip horizontally, flip horizontally. Now I can move it over right onto the fold. I'm looking for those snap lines. I've got the red and the green showing it's lined up. If you don't have that appearing on your screen, it's up here in the snap panel, or where the choices you can get that and how close to snapping. You could turn it on and off. You can also just zoom in, and you can try to eyeball on that and make sure they're lined up. You want that lined up right on top of the line. That center fold line should be lined up. You don't want them next to each other because then you're giving extra space in the middle of your pattern. So there we've completed how to unfold a pattern piece. Finally, I almost forgot my one step that's important before you start trying to move things around, is that you select the entire thing and you group it together, Control G, so that it can move as one pattern piece and not be separate on there. See, oh, that one's still separate. So Shift, click this other pattern piece, Control G, it's all grouped together now. Now you can move it. I like to leave that center fold line just in case sometimes I want to fold it, but you can also, before you group it all together, you can get into the nodes and delete that fold line if you would like. I like to leave it. So again, that's personal preference, up to you. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to move this out of the way, and we are going to look at mirroring a piece on here. Okay, so when you're mirroring a piece, again, you want to make sure you are selecting all the pattern lines that you want to mirror. So if I start selecting here, I can see that one has the outside. I'm going to click Shift. I'm going to click the arm line here. I'm going to click the star marker here and the pocket piece here. And I'm going to push Control G. I'm going to group that all together. And if you can't select some of those, it may be that you need to do some ungrouping first before you can group those together. Because sometimes some pattern companies group different things interestingly. So you might have to play around with that. If you're clicking, you're not able to click on a certain marker or pattern line, you may need to do some ungrouping first. Okay, so for just mirroring a pattern piece, it's really easy. It's just like unfolding. So I'm going to duplicate. I have the pattern piece selected. I'm going to duplicate, Control J. It should be duplicated. You could always check if it was by selecting it and moving it. Oh, yep, it is. And then we're going to flip horizontally, and here it is. I have it mirrored. I can move it up here to the white space, and you can see I have that entire pattern piece, and it's mirrored. You can lay out your pattern pieces. We call it pattern tetris when you plan out your cuts. That will be in a future tutorial, but there you go. You have your pieces, and you can arrange them however you want on your artboard here. Okay, let's talk next about lengthening and shortening pattern pieces. I like the LA Mac patterns because they often have instructions where to lengthen and shorten and how to do it. This pattern piece says to subtract a ½ inch for every inch taller or shorter you are than the drafted height of 5 feet 5 inches. I'm going to first show you how to subtract. I'm going to do about a ½ inch since I'm about 5'4", but remember you calculate that on your own. I'm not going to go over the how to shorten or lengthen patterns, technically how you do on paper. I'm just going to be showing you digitally. So if you don't know how to properly lengthen or shorten patterns, make sure you learn how to do that. And I'm just showing you how to do it digitally here in Affinity Designer. Okay, so I have already grouped this entire pattern together, and if I have a pattern that's all grouped, that I've used the move tool and I've grouped it all together, when you come and try to select the node tools, you can't see any, sometimes the nodes don't come in. You may need to do some ungrouping. You can try double clicking, see if that works. Every pattern is different. But the first thing I might do is come down to the line that we have where we're going to be cutting it, and we want to figuratively cut it digitally. So I'm going to select a node here, come up to the action, we're going to come up to break the curve, and again do that on the other side, break curve. Okay, once you've done break curve, you should be able to have control of those nodes there. Okay, I'm going to push Control Z because I kind of moved those all around. Okay, and I don't want to move those around. Next, we want to know how to take off the proper amount. I do have my grid up, which it is, I have it in inches, and I could eyeball where half an inch is, and it's pretty close here. I can see half an inch would be about there, but I'm going to show you how to do it a little bit more accurately. What I would do is I would go ahead and grab a rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. You can come down over here and you can make it the exact height that you need. I don't mind the width can be whatever. But now I know that rectangle is exactly half an inch, and I'm going to go ahead and move that rectangle so it is right on top of the cut line that the pattern has made. And the red line again shows me it's lined up. Both of those have snapped to line. So that's exactly half an inch. The next thing I'm going to grab is a ruler guideline. You just click up where your ruler is, click and hold your mouse down and drag a blue line down. It is not drawing that line on your pattern. This is strictly just for working purposes. If I exported this pattern right now, it would show a rectangle, but it would not show that blue line on there. Okay, since we are shortening the pattern, let's come back to our node tool. And let's click on those nodes, and I'm going to be taking height away. So we want to select the node up here. I'm going to take this node, and I'm going to shorten it up here. And let's select this node here that I had. And if you accidentally move it around too much, remember Control Z Control C will undo everything that you need for you. And what happened is it grabbed the node underneath on the bottom line first, and I wanted the top line one on there. Okay, so you've moved the node, and you want to do that same thing to the other side as well. Okay, I want to select the node up here, and I'm going to come up to my half-inch mark there. Okay, now I'm going to put that node back. You're going to want to grab the move tool now, because we don't want to draw another straight line with the node tool, because then that would just close that gap and drawing the line here. It wouldn't move the entire pattern up to shorten it. So I have the move tool. I've selected the bottom. It's already selected here, and I can click move. Now if I do that without grouping a few things first, you can see that the pocket placement is gone. It's below here. So, I mean, it's a good way to see if you've grabbed the right stuff, but I like to make sure it has everything with it when I move. So I have the outline of the pattern selected, push Shift, and select any other lines that you want to move with the pattern. So I want to keep the shirt cut line. I want to keep the pocket placement guide. So we're going to group that together. Control G groups it together. Now I can move it all the way up with the whole pattern, and it didn't grab it grabbed the cut line there. So I'm going to move it all the way up. Now we can go into the nodes to join these curves. If you don't need to work with the nodes anymore, a quick way, you can just do Shift and select the top of it and group them all together. Okay, and it will move the entire pattern. But I'll also show you how you can join the curve using the nodes as well. Okay, so once I've got it in there, let's go ahead and we're going to have to, if I go to the nodes, let's go ahead and select in here. And it did on this one. I selected the top one, and you can see it's highlighted in blue that I have the top curve all highlighted together, but I haven't selected the bottom. So now you're going to click Shift and click on the bottom part of the pattern. It's going to let me. There you go. I had to double click for it to select on there. Okay, and then I dragged and I selected those nodes right where I had broken them, and I'm going to click Join Curves. I click Join Curves. It's all going to make it one piece on there. You could do the same thing to the other side. Sometimes it's already joined it. Join Curves. Now we should have an entire piece that's together using the nodes. So again, you can just group the patterns using group. You can use the nodes to join the curve. on there. Both will get the same final result that you need. But if I zoom out now, I forgot to get that pocket in there, so it's not correctly placed here. But it is all, I had moved it earlier, it is all joined correctly in there, and we have our entire pattern piece, and it is shortened. It is shorter, a ½ inch shorter. If I compare that to the back piece, you can see that it is shorter. Okay, now let's look at lengthening, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that using the back piece here. You would typically want to lengthen or shorten before you unfold. I did it a little bit backwards for you today just because I think it's a lot easier to fold and unfold and then go into folding. So I'm going to go ahead and set up our back piece so it's not folded, and I'm going to show you how we would go ahead and lengthen this piece. Okay, so you're going to want to either use your rectangle if you still have it, or you can draw a new one. That one's kind of under a few things, so I'm going to go ahead and just grab a new one. Grab a rectangle, change the height. I'm going to lengthen it by ½ inch, whatever you need to lengthen it by. And drag it over to the pattern marker where you need to lengthen it. And I'm going to be increasing the length. I'm going to go ahead and put it right underneath that line. And grab a guideline and line it right up with that. Let's zoom in here so you can see that a little bit better. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab our node tool so we can make sure we have broken the nodes where they need to be broken. And I'm going to do that up here at the top here, if I can reach it here. Double click. That's grabbing it just right where I don't want it. Right. Let's do it right above here. Okay. And break the curve. Do the same thing on the other side. And double click, get that node in there. Break the curve. You can always check it with the move tool, or you can see that it's broken. I've moved it. I can move it all around, put it right back on there. But it's broken. You can move that piece now. And since we are lengthening, you're not going to just take a node and start moving it down. Okay, that's not going to lengthen it. It's going to shorten your lines, and there's just going to be a gap in there. We want to move the entire bottom piece. So we're going to go with the move tool. Okay. And remember, if there's any lines that you want to keep, make sure you group them together. Okay. I'm going to select the bottom part. You should be able to select it separately now, even with the node tool, because even with the move tool, because you broke that curve. Okay. There's still two separate pieces. Okay, because those curves are broken. And then I should be able to select any other lines that I want to group with that bottom piece. Control G, I'm grouping it together. Now I'm lengthening again, so we're stretching, we're cutting and moving the pattern apart. So now I can move that whole bottom piece down. Okay, I've lengthened it by ½ inch. Okay, and you want to line it up as best you can with the top of the pattern here. Okay, we're not done because your pattern has a gap here that we need to fill in. We do that by using the node tool again. So come back to the node tool. I'm going to zoom in here, double click on that, and we can bring it down right there. Select it there. Let's bring the other side down before we join curves. Go ahead and get the other side and bring it down. Make sure they are connected. Now shift, if you see this little blue line that's all the way around, the top of my pattern is currently selected. I'm going to shift and select I'm going to have to shift and double click there. Shift and double click here. Highlight those nodes right there that are the two lines. Then you should see a join curves appear. If you don't see it appear, try double clicking again and highlighting those nodes. Sometimes it gets a little finicky if you're not selecting just right where you're at. Again, you can highlight those nodes. There's two there for the two lines, and click Join Curves. It will all be in one piece now, and we should be able to move the entire pattern piece now in one. If I come back over to the mode tool or the move tool, then it's selected that whole piece as one, and that's a good indicator, hey, it's all one piece now. So the past methods, they really taught you a lot of things. They taught you breaking curve, joining curves, drawing rectangles, using the ruler guidelines. But there is a lot shorter way to lengthen or shorten a pattern. So I just want to go over that really quick because it is a faster way. I'm going to use the node tool and just click on the nodes on my pattern where I would like it. And then I'm going to select all the nodes below. You can push shift and select. You can highlight and select them. Also, make sure you push shift and mark any other pattern markers that you want to move with your pattern when you lengthen or shorten. Now you can see I have the entire bottom part of the nodes selected. They are filled in blue. You're going to come over to the transform box, and if I wanted to increase it by half an inch, I would add 0.5 inches on the Y, or however many you want to increase it. So I'm going to add half an inch, so it's going to be 23.64, push enter, and it's shifted it all down. It stayed connected and just moved everything down. Quick and dirty, easy way to do it. If you want to shorten it, you just do the opposite, and you would take away half an inch. This might take some calculation. I give you permission to use a calculator if you need. If you're doing inches, it's really easy. But I just click enter, and it's shortened it. It will shorten it again once I actually type in the right. There I am, back to the original. So quick and dirty, how to lengthen or shorten